Hey guys, Jessica here and welcome back to the channel. Today I am making some window cards, which all started from a card I made for the Art Impressions blog. I'll have a link to that blog post down below. And I was really inspired to just make my own pattern paper for a card front using some of the smaller stamps in the Doggie Kisses stamp set. And I also paired it with some of these Gina K inks. And I love this color combination. I'm using Coral Reef, Blue Denim, Lovely Lavender, and Prickly Pear. And it's not a color combination that I normally would go to, but I don't know, I really liked it for some reason, and I just kind of went with it. So I'm going to use this same kind of color combination for all the cards in this video. So what separates this card that I'm making from that first card I made is that I used a oval die. It's just an oval stitch die from Art Impressions, and I die cut that off-centered from the center of the card panel, so it actually goes over that edge of the card. It's still a window because you'll still see into the inside of the card. It's just offset. I don't normally stamp patterns like this, and I forget how fun it is. Normally I stamp to like color an image, or I stamp to build a scene. That's kind of my go-to. But just creating a random pattern like this was a lot of fun. And it's really easy. You don't really need to think too much about it. I was just trying to keep the colors from being directly next to each other. I did fail on that just a little bit here and there, but I think it still looks just fine. And it was fun. And then to really mix it up, I added in that really light lavender color with that paw print. And then the ouch is also from the Doggie Kisses set. And I used some slate ink from the Gina K line also, which adds a bit of contrast. You know, I like to add in some darker colors wherever I can, just to give it a little bit of depth there. So I went really easy with the inside of the card. I just stamped that little puppy. He's also from the Doggie Kisses set, and he's got that gigantic red tongue, which is really cute. I stamped him and then colored him in with some very simple gray colors because that card front is so colorful anyways. There's a fantastic sentiment that ties really well with him, so I stamped that using the blue denim color outside of that oval shape. That way you didn't see the sentiment until you opened it up. For my second card, I decided to use the Theinkroadstamps set Lit. I've had this one for quite some time, and I haven't gotten around to actually using it. So for this, I made a point to use this stamp set because it's so funny. And I use the cake image. I'm going to stamp him in rows. So there's going to be 3 across and 3 up and down. He fit just perfectly like that. And I'm using my stamp platform for this just so that it's a little bit easier. I don't really care if he's exactly lined up to like a measured spec, but I wanted him to be pretty even across the card base. I'm also going to die cut this, so any kind of flaws in the middle there will be a little less noticeable. So since I stamped the image in black ink, that way I could color it, I decided to pull out some Copic markers that were very similar to the Gina K inks that I was using. I could have went a bit darker on some of these colors, and they're not exact at all. I wasn't going for exact colors. But I pulled out the R14, the B26, the Y26, and then for that lovely lavender shade, which is a really hard color to match, and I don't have a large stash of Copics. My collection is pretty small compared to a lot of people's, but I combined 2 colors. So I combined the BV00 and the RV93. So the RV93 just gives that BV color a little bit more pink to it, and I think it turned out, I think they coordinate pretty well together. So those colors are what I'm going to be coloring the cakes in. I kept a lot of that cake image white or light gray, but all the frosting and the candles, all that will be colored with those Copic markers. I also went ahead and I die cut the hexagon shape for my window. And when I was pushing that through my Big Shot, one of the plates weren't lined up correctly. And so it shifted, which caused the die to shift because I didn't tape it down. This is supposed to be a very quick process. So because I didn't tape it down, of course it shifted and it turned out a little crooked. It's a little bit leaning to the left there, which is fine. I wasn't going to restamp, so I'm just going to go with it and fix it. The frosting is where I did a lot of my coloring, which I pulled in some more darker or lighter shades for those Copic markers. I'll have all the markers that I used listed below if you're interested. So this card panel was done using a Nina 80-pound cardstock. So there is no card base for this yet, so I have to make the card base. So I took one of my Nina 110-pound pre-cut and scored card bases. I used the same hexagon die to die cut the front panel of that card base and a piece of black cardstock, which I wanted to use as a layering piece. So off screen, I also used a piece of craft foam to layer behind my cake panel. That way it could be popped up away from that black cardstock. Before I layer that cake panel onto the front of the card, I'm going to stamp the image for the inside of the card that's peeking through the window. And because I wanted to make this one slightly different, I also layered a piece of vellum between the craft foam and that cake panel. That way you could just barely see what's going on in the inside. It's a bit frosty, which I think works out pretty well for this one. This set from Inkroad has so many really great sentiments. I decided to stamp another one for the inside. And all the sentiments that I use on the outside of the cards today, I went ahead and I heat embossed in white embossing powder on black cardstock off screen. That way I could just get those done and over with. I kind of already knew which ones I was going to be using. And for this cake card, I just adhered that sentiment to the top part of that hexagon. For my third and final card, I decided to use a masking technique, just using some masking paper. I'm using Ink-a-Ding-a-Doo for that. And I created several masks so I could stamp out this pile of wheels. And these wheel stamps came from the Impressions Birthday Dog Wheelie set, which is actually a very interactive stamp and die set. But I thought it would be fun to just have a pile of wheels for the front of this card. So I used the same 4 Copic colors that I used for the previous card and colored in all the inside of the wheels. I guess those, I was thinking they might be hubcaps or something. I don't know. But they're all colored in those 4 colors that match the Gina K inks. I'll have a link below to the card I made using that Birthday Dog Wheelie set as it was intended to be made. This was just something that had been rolling around in my head, so I had to see it out. And then keeping to the roundness of this card, I went ahead and just used a circle die for my window. The inside of this card has the actual birthday dog from that Birthday Dog Wheelie set, and you can see that he has no leg there. He's kind of a legless dog riding a bicycle, but that's part of the interactiveness to that stamp set. Luckily, you can go ahead and just stamp the leg parts onto a separate piece of cardstock, use the dies to die cut it out, and then you can piece back together that dog's leg so he looks a little more complete. He looked like he was kind of floating around, so I'm going to add just a very simplistic grounding background with some gray markers. And I do add a die cut for the inside also right above the dog's head that says happy birthday to make this a birthday card. Now I can adhere him to the inside of my card base with my window that's already cut out. And when you close it, you see that dog's face showing through that circle window, which is really funny with that pile of wheels. And then to add to my humor, and it just made me laugh, I'm going to add the punny sentiment that says, I wheelie like you, to this card. And that one is done. So here's a bit of a close-up footage of all 4 cards that I made. So you'll see the very first one also. So that is it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video showing 3 different examples. Kind of showing 3 different versions of... I hope you enjoyed this type of video. It was a lot of fun to make, and I really enjoyed just stamping and coloring and just playing around with this color combination. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Meh, meh.